What's up, gamers? It's your boy.
I want you to know that in the edit, I'm going to leave that hang in.
That's just me like staring at the table for 5 seconds.
Yeah.
I have to do it. It gets me in the mood. It awakens my persona.
He's putting on his game face.
You know when like High School Musical, when Sharpay and her brother are like
stop you.
That's what I do. That's my thing.
I didn't watch High School.
Or like in Hunger Games when the main guy on the TV is like, that's my thing.
So anyway, James, how you doing this week?
Anyways, we're back as always. Once a week, we're here. We just finished watching a movie at the request of James's sister. Can I name drop her? Is that? I don't know. Some people are. Bridget. Nice shout out, Bridget. Thank you, Bridget.
Appreciate you.
Well, I don't know. Some people are worried about their names being on the internet.
yeah.
Yeah, so,
I'm one of them.
Wanted to get consent. What?
Go on. Just keep moving.
We just watched the 2019 Best Picture winner for the Academy Award. The Academy Award Best Picture winner, sorry. Parasite, the South Korean movie that I think took the internet really the world by storm. But I think me and James probably have some funny anecdotes about like film bros at the time.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah. Even I remember some of those conversations.
Connor, you had never seen this movie.
Correct.
So this is another certified classic TM that we're showing you.
Uh-huh.
Your opening remarks.
All right, you guys can make fun of me for this. Every time anybody mentioned this movie, especially when it was coming out, I believe around this time, or maybe like a year prior, there was an anime that came out that was also a banger called Parasite. That was about a dude who has an alien in his hand.
I believe that.
That was way earlier.
Was it way earlier?
That was like 2016,
Was
2015.
it?
Oh,
I don't know,
yeah.
dude. I remember people were talking about this film and talking about that anime at the exact same time, and I could never differentiate what the hell people were talking about.
I believe Connor is somewhat right. I think I had the same thing where I was like, wait, are you guys talking about that? I never watched the anime, but I was like, what are we talking about here?
Yeah, it might have just been correlation kind of thing that people
Or maybe it was
up
like
again,
a new wave of new fans watching it.
Something. People were looking up this and saw that instead. But yeah, so that was that was all I knew about this film, was that I was like, it shares a name with an anime that I also never watched, and that people really liked it for some reason.
The anime or the movie?
The movie. We're talking about the movie. I don't know shit about the anime.
Okay.
But yeah, so that was really all I knew going in, was just it was requested. We all had free time to watch it.
5 years.
5 years.
In November, it'll be the 5th year anniversary.
Mm-hmm. So we're doing a little early.
So it's a little early, but no time like the present to reward grandiose films. James?
So you didn't have any expectation about like the accolades that the film achieved. It won not just Best Picture, which means a lot to people in America, but it won the Palme d'Or at the Cannes Film Festival, which is probably the highest achievement a movie can win worldwide.
James, I'm going to be so for real with you. Until you mentioned what awards it won, I forgot it won anything.
He didn't even know what Cannes was.
Yeah.
He didn't even know where it's at.
I just figured it would jog your memory.
Terms are. Yeah, no, I knew vaguely that it won some awards, but I mean, I don't know. I read a lot of books that say New York Times bestseller, so I just kind of awards go over my head at this point.
Did you have any expectations about like Korean cinema or Korean art in general?
A little bit, actually, because I've consumed just a couple different forms of Korean media between movies, shows, various types of manga and literature.
Manhwa.
Yeah, sorry, manhwa. So, like, I mean, it like everything else, I feel like has its highs and its lows. I've seen and read some good stuff, and I've seen and read some really bad stuff. And so I've just kind of like, it being Korean really didn't have any bearings on what I expected from it, other than the fact that there were going to be subtitles, and I was happy because you guys never turn on the subtitles, and I can't hear a damn thing.
Sounds like a skill issue.
But yeah, I mean, that was pretty much, like I said, I didn't really have expectations going in. Isaac made a Godfather joke before we started, and I was like, "Oh, okay, cool. This will be a really
the play menu." I said, "Connor, pick somebody who dies," and he said, "The kids."
Yeah. And so, if anything, my expectation was this is gonna be really like plain and demure movie where like nothing happens
Yeah.
and like there's gonna be nothing bad about this at all.
Yeah, it takes you for a ride. It is one of the rare movies where you can like pinpoint the exact time and place it makes a massive tonal shift. And I think that is so impressive for a movie to be able to do that, especially nowadays where people are like, what? You're changing up a movie on me? And for people to like it so... I have yet to meet somebody who doesn't like this movie, which is kind of rare nowadays. As Connor looks at me.
Well, I debated for a brief second to be like, I should be a contrarian for fun. My opinion hinged really heavily right now on how much I felt like being a jerk.
But I remember, and James, you can probably attest to this a little bit. I remember we were in school still, and everybody was talking about this movie before it made the like post-Oscar buzz. Because I think a lot of people probably watched it after the Oscars, myself included. But I think for a lot of people that we knew, there was like, yo, did you go see this Korean movie that's directed by Bong Joon-ho? It's like it's supposed to be really good. And I was always like, yeah, you guys like movies I don't like. I'm not gonna bother. And then I remember when Parasite won, I was like, what the? This better be the best movie of all time. Because it won over a Martin Scorsese a mafia movie. It won over a Quentin Tarantino movie set in LA, and it won over a Sam Mendes World War I movie for Best Picture. And that's like the holy trinity of we're going to give this to you because the Oscars is so conceited in what they do. And the fact that they were able to give it to a movie, not only that is Korean, but is like, not only is it Korean based, but it's Korean. Like,
Yeah.
there's no English version of this movie. And it's one of the rare instances. I think it is actually the first foreign film to win the Best Picture. And so for that, I was like, there's a lot of hype for me going into this movie. And then I left the theater and I was like, all right, I think the Academy got it right this year.
James, you look like you were going to say something.
Go ahead if you have more to say.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, like, other, I guess, like, hindsight 2020 kind of situation.
2019, actually.
Anyway, it's nice to see a foreign film receive a lot of praise in America. You know, James, what the hell were you going to say?
I'm listening. Go ahead.
No, Isaac threw me off. I'm done. I'm moving on.
Sorry. I had to. I'm sorry.
Finish your point.
That's real Connor's like, that's all I got.
Oh, my
God. Whatever. There is no point. I'm just waxing poetically at this point.
It was nice seeing a foreign film get
Yeah, that's the end of the
praised.
point. Yeah, it's just, you know,
Yeah.
Americans don't really go
No.
outside their realm of influence very
You're
often.
not
So it's
wrong.
cool to see it get on a higher stage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a good confluence of events because it's been in my head a lot this past week for some reason.
Parasite or Confluence?
Confluence.
Yeah. Word of the day calendar coming in clutch.
Yeah.
Like you said, you have seen, that just because something is foreign doesn't mean that it's always going to be better than American. There's
Right.
a lot of up and downs in either Japanese media or Korean media in this
Or
case.
any media.
But the influx of South Korean culture influencing America at the time, particularly in K-pop, as I'm sure you love.
Uh-huh.
I think it was understandable that people might be skeptical when this film got popular because, it's just they like it because it's Korean,
Right.
et cetera,
Yeah.
et cetera. You know,
I had that opinion.
because
You look like the kind of guy to have that
What
opinion.
the fuck does that mean?
Like,
he looks like it. You are it.
Yeah.
well, James, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, buddy, but there's a couple things that you've liked.
Fair enough.
Anyway, continue your statement.
That was mostly due to K-pop, I think,
Yeah.
getting popular with kids in America. But
Kids, it was like 25-year-olds.
yeah,
Oh, yeah, I was just saying, are you a kid? This is all you could talk about back then.
but yeah, I was in school still. I was young.
We were 22. Anyways.
This is a legal adult.
The point being is that I put off seeing it for a very, very long time. Mostly because I was extremely skeptical of anything anybody else at ASU enjoyed.
Yes.
I was like,
Fair.
you guys are film majors, so if you like something, you probably have some very specific personal reason for liking it. Something that just isn't really going to gel with me. You know, film majors tend to have a more personal connection to.
Right.
Like, I like
Just-
this for X specific
It's-
reason,
it's-
and nobody else will.
It's a graph of the more obscure a movie is, the more
Yeah.
highly regarded it is
Yeah.
in the film. In the
You
film
know the
major.
bell curve where it's like on the one hand it's like the dumb people and on the
Yeah.
other hand it's the enlightened people. Film students are exactly in the middle.
Yeah.
Were you film students?
Yes, exactly.
just making
That's why
sure.
I was
If anything,
skeptical.
we have more leeway to make this
Yeah.
comment.
I just wanted to make sure that we were aware of the. I'm talking to a mirror situation here, but
I was skeptical for two reasons. The first was because it was other film students praising it,
Yeah.
and I think it's best that you don't take them at their word.
I usually don't.
And the second reason is because of my older sister and having a huge Korean influence in my family through her. That I was kind of like, okay, well, I get that we're like the Korean, you know, we get everything first because of you. But at the same time, like, let this play out, you know, let it rock, see how it works in America. And then maybe I'll go and see it. And eventually she did drag me to see it. And I'll be honest, I had kind of a mid reaction the first time I watched this.
Really?
It didn't hit me that hard the first time. Now, obviously, I have seen like every other film Bong Joon-ho has made, and I have seen a lot of other Korean films from other great directors. So I was kind of trying to play it cool to a degree, to be like, yeah, been there, done that.
Yeah,
Korean
not his
movies
best
can be
work.
good.
It's not
yeah,
his best work.
you
Have you ever
know?
watched
You ever seen
Snowpiercer?
Snowpiercer?
You even knew what he's gonna say.
Well, Memories of a Murder is actually the better answer, but
Anyways.
regardless.
Love you, buddy, but you.
The point being is that, you know, I honestly, what I liked about this movie was how it took over the public, how people were
Yeah.
talking about not just Korean art outside of K-pop, but how this film is, you know, takes itself seriously in
Yeah.
a way that I don't think a lot of other American movies do. Particularly, in my opinion, I loved seeing not just like Bong Joon-ho himself talking about this, but you know, there's a lot of symbolism in this movie that begs to be dissected between the stone, the staircases. You know, those are two really the peaches smelling, stuff like that. You just don't get that in a lot of American film, even in independent filmmaking in America. And so I enjoyed seeing, you know, it felt like this film was a step in elevating other people's consciousness towards filmmaking. And it to me, it was like, yeah, Bong Joon-ho would be the guy to do that.
Yeah.
Of course, you know, everybody loves this film. Did you not see Snowpiercer? You know?
Can't keep getting away with this.
You would not wear a shoe on your head. Sorry, that's the monologue at the end of the movie. So anyway, that was just my prior experience with Parasite. So when it won, you know, the Palme d'Or at Cannes, that to me was the most exciting part, where I was like, okay, this is like, you know,
Highly regarded.
yeah, not just highly regarded, but like it's actually going to put Korea on the map for
Yeah.
a lot of people, not just in America either, but like around the world.
Just around the world, yeah.
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 And then when it won Best Picture, I was like, that's just neat. You know, you like to see something happen for the first time. Because it's not the first time a foreign film has been nominated for Best Picture, but it is the first one to win, which is cool. And he also won Best Director, too,
Yeah.
which was very, very well deserved for this film, I think.
That was one of the coolest. I talked about 2019, the Academy Awards specifically, as being like one of the coolest, the last coolest Academy Awards, because it was just fun. It was like this movie, there were a lot of greats there. There were a lot of great movies nominated that I think will stay in the pop culture for decades to come.
Well, yeah, because people had nothing else to watch the next year after. And they
Or
keep
the,
watching
like,
stuff.
the 6 years before, but
Oh,
they
yeah.
will get there. It's neither here nor there.
Let me have my COVID joke.
But yeah, it was just, I just remember like Reddit threads just being fun to read through. Like people were so enamored with this year, and then having this movie be the winner of the crown jewel to say, it's like, it's extremely fitting, I think, for a year.
So, in your opinion, What do you think of this film in terms of Bong Joon-ho? Did you have any experience with him? Like, had you seen Snowpiercer prior?
Not prior, no.
James is gonna make us watch Snowpiercer.
No, I'm not going to make you watch
Snowpiercer's not-
Snowpiercer. I would
It's
make.
good up until they leave.
Have you ever seen the video about how Snowpiercer is a sequel to Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory?
That would be such a great saga.
Anyway,
It's like the Pixar theory.
I'm curious about your opinion about him.
I have nothing to like base this off of with Bong Joon-ho. I saw
After-
Snowpiercer, but Snowpiercer had a bunch of Weinstein interference in it, so
Yeah.
I can't really even properly be like, well, Snowpiercer did this better, and, you know, it's just hard because he hasn't made a movie since, and it feels like he's kind of just disappeared. I think he made a couple TV shows, but that's about it in Korea.
But given that this was released in the same year as, like, you know, Irishman and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, you know, when you came out of the theater for this film, did you think, like, you know, oh, this is already on par with those films, or did it take
Yeah.
you a while to digest?
I thought it was
or-
just a breath of fresh air more than
Yeah.
anything. The way specifically his blocking and his composition of his shots. There's a great video, like a minute Instagram reel I saw where he intentionally has lines set up where characters cross over at certain points depending on their actions, and I was like, that's so cool. Like, I know it's so simple to think about, but for
Yeah,
somebody to have the like planning in their head of we need actor A to hit the mark at this point while the camera's here, and then we're gonna go and it's gonna cross the line at this point, and then this musical cue is gonna hit. Like that happens multiple times and out throughout the movie, and I'm just like, this is art.
Which is crazy because that's what directing is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we
that's
just
the
don't
whole
get
point,
that.
yeah.
a lot.
That's the job,
From
yeah.
a pure technical directing perspective, it's up there. It's one of the greatest, and I mean, it makes sense why he won Best Director, even though he wasn't probably the favorite to win that year in Best Director. Him winning it is because I mean, at this point, Tarantino just feels like a caricature of himself. Sam Mendes doesn't feel like he had the clout, and then Martin Scorsese is Martin Scorsese, obviously, but The Irishman is definitely not his best work in terms of directing. So, you know, Bong Joon-ho winning is not. It makes sense.
What'd you think of the acting?
For most part, it felt like they just took a camera into people's lives, which I think is a good thing. You know, like, and you can't really tell at what point it's no longer acting. We talked about this in The Blair Witch, where it was just like good acting. You're almost like, are these people actors or are they like actually this thing?
Now, do you think that's because they're Korean and you don't know them?
No, I think that like I mean, obviously there's some variants of like there's probably some cultural things that I missed out on. There's, you know, with your native tongue, you can appreciate when people are like not being as truthful and stuff. You can pick up those vocal cues, and so I'm sure there's some stuff that I missed, but I feel like they just did a solid job. Like I feel like they the family on both sides felt like how a family would be.
Yeah.
And everybody played their part really well and did exactly what you would expect them to in a way that you don't feel like they're a caricature, but they're actually people doing these things.
James, as someone who has more experience in Korean art,
That's the only person here who's been to it.
you've also been to Korea.
Yeah.
You have boots on the ground experience.
Not in North Korea, by the way. Just
Not those kind of boots on the ground. There was a scene where a woman impersonates a North Korean
Yeah,
like
I loved
TV
it.
announcer.
That was such a good bit,
really funny. So the father, who's the only actor who's
He's in almost all of his, right?
he's a super famous
Yeah,
Korean
yeah,
actor.
yeah.
I say he looked familiar to me.
So-
I've seen him
Kang-ho.
in a couple of American movies. Yeah.
So, I mean, he kills it and everything. Honestly, he's just like a legend in Korean
is him.
cinema. He is him. Yeah. And he plays that kind of character in almost every film. The kind of like optimistic but not happy-go-lucky kind of guy.
Yeah.
You know. So I remember somebody left a comment that he was just Korean Homer Simpson.
Korea's dad.
Yeah.
Nice.
Love that.
This is only this is the second time I've ever seen this film.
Yeah.
Last
Okay.
time I watched it was in theater. So I was more so looking out for those kind of directing techniques, like the way that the basement door is framed in every single shot in the kitchen, at least between two people, or it's just always back there, just this menacing black gateway.
It's a presence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or the things that get brought up earlier on in the film that I'm sure I noticed the first time, but just like didn't remember. The way that the film kind of has those two halves where it's like the family, gets into the house and there's like sequences of events that mirror each other within that scene. And then from about the time where they go on the camping trip onwards, that has like a whole sequence of events and it mirrors itself on that other end as well. So that plot structure to me, I appreciate. I think more as time has gone on and then rewatching it, I was like, yeah, this was actually, pretty well conceived in my opinion.
Yeah.
Which is not to say that like, this is, still the greatest movie of all time or anything like that in my opinion. But I definitely appreciate it a lot more the second time. Like I said, I thought that this was mostly driven by hype when it got popular, and so to rewatch it this far removed, I was like, this was definitely a good movie.
Yeah,
it's definitely not something we get in America at all. I'm curious. There has been Bong Joon-ho himself has said specifically that he thinks the powerful thing about this film is that it's kind of core theme about class differences goes beyond Korea. Do you guys feel like you agree with that? Did that message either resonate with you or did you even pick up on it?
This is about class differences?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I didn't get that at all.
I know you're being sarcastic, but you know what I mean though.
You were looking at me with such expectation. I was like, I gotta spin this a little bit.
Well, there was definitely an extent to which I think part of the reason I dismissed people's praise of this film is because I thought, well, do you really understand it?
Yeah.
Like, and I'm not even saying that as somebody who has, been to South Korea or studied Korean culture before. I'm saying that like, I wouldn't watch something from, Japan and think that, oh, I understand what they're saying about Japanese culture or anything like that, I'm just curious if you guys thought you had similar reactions.
I mean, obviously I can't comment on the Korean culture side of things. Oh.
I mean, you could.
You could try. We did it with District 9 in South Africa.
Yeah.
I can't comment in a way that I would feel comfortable making a comment about and posting it on the internet. In terms of like the class disparity and like, rich to poor communication and how things are perceived and stuff like that. I mean, like I felt like I understood what was being put down. And I feel like I really just phrased that in the most like stupid way I could have.
I caught his drift,
Yeah,
I get the vibe.
I understand what he's about. Yeah, he's spitting and I'm hearing. I was like, you want to take this off me for a second? You want to please?
No, you're good.
I hate you guys.
Keep cooking.
But no, just like because it's not necessarily something that is constrained to Korea, where it's we have the people at the bottom who are scrounging to make ends meet,
Yeah.
and are suffering because the world as it is built just is not built to sustain them, and we have the people who are so unbelievably successful that even what they're doing is just feeding back into itself, and they don't even notice that there's an outside world to be like perceived.
Is there a particular element of the film that you feel like really highlights that for you? Like a set piece or a prop or like a story beat?
The sense. I don't know what your guys' like financial history, not your smell. I'm familiar with that. What your guys' like financial histories were growing up and stuff, but like when he brought up the smell of the dad, he's like, oh, he smells like somebody who rides a subway. I got that immediately because I was like, I had a somewhat, one half of the family was very poor growing up. And like that was the things that I always remember when I would go to my dad's house, and I was like, this place fucking reeks. And it wasn't necessarily because it was dirty, it just has this lingering odor of just like crap because you can't clean it because it's just decaying and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
And it's just like no matter what you try to scrub out, you're gonna have that scent with you for a little bit. And so like when he was doing that, and then like later on when I don't know how spoiler we want to get with this question mark.
Most people have seen this film, I guarantee.
Right. So later on, when like like the whole incident's happening in the birthday party, and he goes to get the key, the Mr. whatever his name was, I can't remember. Park. Mr. Park goes to get the keys, and he like plugs his nose because the smell is so bad, despite the fact that it is a dying man who is screaming about how much he respects him, and his first instinct is, oh, well, this smells really bad. I'm like, that is such a microcosm of like, affluent people and not like just understanding what's happening. I'm like, anybody else, and if you're in that situation, you're like, I need to get these keys because my son is having a anaphylactic shock seizure and he's going to die in 15 minutes if I don't get to the hospital. You would not be like, God, this guy smells like ass. Oh my God, he smells like he's been living in my basement for like 4 years now. Like it just wouldn't cross your mind. But like them, that's important and stuff. And it's just these things that it's like that was my main like, okay, this is really, he gets it. He understands like the differences between people at the very, very bottom, people not necessarily at the very, very top, but just high enough that it doesn't matter.
Was there something that stood out for you?
This second time, specifically the rain. Because the kid goes out and he's like, oh, rain, yay, this is fun, this is cool. Cut to the other family just lost everything because of the rain.
All the flooding.
Yeah. So, and they're, wading in it, trying to grab as many of their possessions as they can. They have to spend the night in the gym. Then it cuts to the parents waking up. They're like, oh, wow, that was such a nice day. Like, it was such a nice sleep. We got to sleep on the couch. Mm-hmm. And then you cut to the other family in a gym, crowded literally, like one on top of another. And then, going through that scene of like the mom is going through her closet and she's picking what she gets to wear. Whereas the kids in the gym are basically forced to pick something to wear because there's just so much limited clothes. And then like she's talking to her friend on the car and she says something along the lines of like, oh, yeah, because of the rain, the pollution went away. And the scene before, we saw that all the water went down into the basement levels where, the other family lived. Mm-hmm. And it was like...
Well, and even like building on that, he was saying, as they were reading through it the first time, he's like, this is sewage water. Yeah. So like the pollution went away and literally they were swimming in raw sewage. Oh.
So that scene specifically, I was like, that's how you show or have symbolism without it being like beating you over the head with it. Because it could have been he could have been like, hey, eat the rich, Yeah. You make more than 50K, you're an enemy of the state.
Right.
Like, we deserve to take over. But instead it was like the perspective of an event happening. I guess we can call it like a natural disaster. Happening and like one family being like, oh, that was cool, like we got to spend the night outside, like this and that, it's a beautiful day now, and the other one being like, I literally just lost everything. Mm-hmm. And you people don't even know that.
Don't even know.
I think it's a really cool way to tie it up and end it and send it into that final scene where everything just comes to a head in a very fun way.
I don't know if I'd say fun, but
what are your guys' thoughts on the ending?
I liked it.
It really came out of left field. Well, not like necessarily in the sense that there wasn't build up to it, but just like I really wasn't expecting it to get that batshit that fast. I think it's great. I just was like, from the instance of them going to camping, I could not have predicted any part of that film afterwards. Yeah. Which took place in like within 24 hours in the narrative.
Yeah.
I will say this, you gave the exact reaction every single person in the theater did when the wife kicks the woman down the stairs and then she hits her head. Yeah. The entire theater went from laughing to dead quiet at that exact moment.
Yeah. Well, because like, I mean, you know me. I pay attention to like bodily harm in movies because I kind of have an idea of those things. So, like when she like slammed her head, I was like, "Oh my God, she just died."
She's not gonna be in Parasite.
I was like, "That is a broken neck or a fractured skull. Like that woman's not getting up." Yeah. So when she got up, I was genuinely shocked. I was like, "Wow, good for her." She's made a stronger stuff than I expected. But I was like, "That was concrete." She barreled down.
The point is that it's a big tonal shift.
Well, I mean, yeah. But like,
But
Sorry, I'm trying, like,
in terms of the actual ending, like the birthday party scene, the killing,
yeah.
you know, that came out of left field for you.
Yeah, just because, like, even with her, like, pushing her down the stairs, I don't think the mom expected it to be that devastating kind of thing.
Well, they actually have no idea. You know, they never went down to check on her.
Well, yeah, of course. But I mean, like, she was like, oh, I need to, like, salvage something right now. So she kicked her and moved on, right? Didn't even think about it. She was just trying to keep herself safe.
Yeah.
The killing part, all of that was just like, I mean, that was, I wouldn't necessarily say premeditated, but it was certainly intentional.
Oh, it was definitely premeditated. He came out and immediately he sees all this food and is like, I'm grabbing the knife. Well, it was 100%
but
premeditated.
You don't have to give him a sentence. It's just a matter of
Yeah,
Well, I mean, like,
he strangled the son and hit him with a rock.
I was like, there's a difference between like premeditated and I'm gonna write down a plan. Here's how I'm gonna do things, and like just being like,
Okay, that's
you're
different.
so off base.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, it just was like,
That would not hold up in a court of law, by the way. You're still going for first degree.
Here's the point that I want to make.
that's not the
Hold
argument
on.
I'm making. But
You're missing the point.
No, he did not plan to kill them, but he was definitely sitting there stewing for 6 hours, being like, as soon as I'm getting up, it's game on.
that's what I mean. That's what I'm like.
You know what it reminds me of? A lot of Shakespeare tragedies.
Yeah?
Yeah, actually.
That's the point that I want to make.
Oh, okay. Why don't you lead with that? Where's the Romeo and Juliet?
Hamlet, he's just talking to his dead wife.
Yeah.
I think that's really what this movie does well is even though that ending is incredibly it's dramatic to the point of being histrionic.
Yeah.
I feel like one too many people die at the end there. But it
It's only
like
three.
it
What is it, 3?
yeah, but it makes sense. Like
Yeah.
there is still a feeling of almost catharsis at the end there, you know, because you feel it the first time when the crazy guy gets stabbed with the the barbecue, the skewer,
The skewer,
you
yeah.
know,
When he gets skewered.
yeah, when he gets skewered. But then when the husband gets stabbed,
Yeah.
that's when that's like a sigh of relief.
Yeah, that was
Right
like,
there,
yeah.
you know,
He saw that. He had that one coming.
Yeah,
yeah.
that was the only that was the only one where I wasn't like, I was like, oh my god. I was like, no, yeah,
That tracks.
that tracks. I'm a little bit upset that the son lived because I calling back to Isaac saying, you know, which of the people die. The son was who I said. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
the son's gonna die.
Yeah.
So when he got his head caved in the first time, I think I said, I was like, called it.
Yeah.
I was like, I was right.
Yeah.
So then they cut to the epilogue and he gets up. And I was
Because
like,
he got hit twice by the rock.
yeah. I mean, honestly, credit to modern medicine where it's due.
What do you think
Most
of his
people wouldn't have
ending?
gotten back up.
But it's his lucky rock.
But it's his lucky rock.
What do you think of his ending? Do you think that he's going to be able to save his dad? He has a plan.
No.
He has a plan, but I don't think he's going to be able to
I
save
think
his
that's the
dad.
message, though, right? Is they're like, hope is a dangerous thing.
Yeah.
To quote a wise rebel general, hope is a dangerous thing because it ends up leading to failure. I mean, that's the whole reason of the gym scene where the dad's like, I don't have a plan because, like, plans never happen with people in our position.
Yeah.
Like, we just have to make do day to day and live our lives the best we can. And I think he has a more cynical take. My interpretation
It
of
is a cynical.
It's a very,
opinion.
very cynical take of like showing what could happen, but knowing like, my God, you don't even have heating.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, because like if he does do it, I feel like it goes against somewhat of the overall themes of the film, where it's just like, well, if he just pulled himself up by his bootstraps, he can have whatever he wants, you know. Which I feel like it's not trying to go for. It's more of going like, if you're in the dumps, like you are kind of screwed.
Yeah.
And it's unfair, and we should be bringing this to attention more often.
Yeah.
So I feel like by nature he has to not succeed. His dad has to die down there, or just get up and leave.
He's a wanted man.
They already forgot about him. Who
Killed
cares?
one person.
You saw how bad the private investigators were doing the tailing job. He could get out of there by now.
Would you watch another Korean film?
I mean, I already said that I have.
What did you watch in the past?
Okay, well, if you're gonna make me name names,
Was it Old Boy?
I don't remember, dude.
Okay.
I barely remember the stuff we watched this year.
Snowpiercer.
I think technically Snowpiercer is Korean.
Anyway.
Wait, have you really not seen Snowpiercer?
No.
You don't have to.
Yeah,
You got to stop asking, have you really not seen X? You know the answer.
I have to ask. Anything else we want to touch on with the movie?
Do you feel like this film has influence and a legacy?
Legacy? I don't know if it has one yet. I don't know if it's made one. I think it could.
I think it has more legacy in who Bong Joon-ho is as a director versus the actual movie itself. Like, I think he himself has such a persona. I mean, we saw all the stupid Instagram stories the day he won of, like, all the filmmakers being like, like they won the damn Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. And it's like, yeah, that's cool, he won, but, like, can you name 2 of his movies?
Yeah.
He was really popular with people who were into foreign film.
Yeah.
100% he was already a staple name with movies like Memory of a Murder and The Host.
Mm-hmm.
I think that just him coming to much, much larger attention, it made sense that it was with Parasite because his 2 previous films were in English, Snowpiercer and Okja, which was on Netflix.
Yeah.
So everybody had access to it. It just was not a good film.
He's not wrong.
And so it made sense that like Korea felt like the best case scenario for him to an extent, I'd say. I think for me, I don't know if this movie, has much impact, however, outside of Korea. I feel like there's definitely a much larger like interest in like the Korean wave has kind of, crested, I think, Right around the time BTS went on hiatus, I think it all kind of
They had to go serve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not to say that there's not still, great Korean art being put out there at all.
Yeah.
But I feel like there's definitely an extent that like you'd almost think that this would be the kind of thing that people would capitalize on, and that Hollywood would rush to bring in all of these directors over.
Yeah.
And that just didn't happen. Did you have a point to make?
I was actually going to say, I think it's going to make, and has made a more reboot. I think it has made American audiences more receptive to not only Korean movies, but just foreign films.
That's
in general.
true. That was also a point that I thought of as I was speaking.
Yeah.
Was I feel like a foreign film like this making such a big wave in America, foreign as in, not from like a Commonwealth country either.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Yeah.
Is that it's like, people are now a little more receptive to having subtitles on when they go to the theater,
Yeah.
Like,
I remember that being a thing of like, people were mad about the subtitles and then they watched this movie and they were like, I can actually watch subtitled movies.
Yeah.
I mean, I mentioned it when I watched All Quiet on the Western Front, where I was like, go watch it in German, because when you watch it in German, it makes it so much better than watching it in the dubbed English.
Say it's almost like it's super easy to read subtitles and watch them.
Okay, but you want to watch American television with American subtitles.
Yes, because people don't know how to audio balance and it's too loud.
Once again, Connor, skill issue. Just get over it.
It's not a skill issue. I don't want to blow my ears out raising the volume up too high. Anyway.
we should have subtitles for our podcast then.
Yeah, I'd
Yeah,
happily
right.
do
You have to generate those.
YouTube does it automatically.
I don't trust YouTube. You think I trust YouTube? They're in cahoots with the United States government. I don't know what I'm saying anymore. What are you guys' favorite scenes from this movie? I think we should start doing that.
The standout scene for me from way back when I saw it, there are 2. The first was when they run back home during the flood.
Yeah.
The fact that they walked down so many stairs, as in the hammer in that metaphor, because the family has to walk upstairs to get into their house. These guys have to walk downstairs to get into their house. But then they show the flood, and it's nothing but them running downstairs the entire time.
The shot of him stopped and watching the water wash over his feet. You're like, oh,
Yeah.
that was a really powerful shot.
So that stuck out to me the first time I watched it, because I was like, okay, I get it. The second scene that really stuck out to me though was when they show the kid eating cake at night, and he looks over and he sees the guy's face pop up underneath the
Dude,
stairs.
that creeped me out.
Such a good shot.
Yeah.
Such a good moment.
Do you think it's an exaggeration to say that this movie is the definition of every frame is a painting? Because you could make a case.
Okay, I've made this argument on this podcast before. I think you're right that there is such an intentionality behind the shot composition in this film that you could take any one frame and you could probably analyze it for character relationships or dynamics or themes or, you know, what have you about the story. I've also made this argument that movies are made up of moving pictures, not individual frames.
Yeah.
So, you know, while I feel like saying every frame is a painting defeats the purpose of cinema as an art form, I do agree that there is definitely, you know, a lot of thought put into framing in this film. I'd be curious what you think, though.
About just like framings in general and stuff?
Or just
I mean,
even
about
just
this
the
film,
idea of every frame.
There's
being a
the
painting.
idea that cinematography in its purest form tells a story purely off visuals.
Right.
And so a
Mostly
lot of people
lighting. Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of people say really, really well shot movies, every frame is a painting because every frame of the picture tells a story. And it tells a concise story when you match them together and together. So would you say this movie fits that bill?
Would you watch this in black and white?
Yeah. I don't think color is necessary. Well, there's like one or two moments.
No,
I
there's
think,
definitely
where,
some spots with the color.
So we definitely play with color. Yeah. As I was saying it, I was like, no, I'm wrong.
Well, I'm just saying because Bong Joon-ho released a black and white version of this film,
Oh,
saying that it was the intended way to watch it.
I can see it.
Yeah.
I'd say like there may be like one or two moments where I'm like, I feel like it might lose some effect by being in black and white. But I feel like you could get away with it, and it wouldn't really be. It's more of like how things are framed and where people are, and sound and lighting that I think make it more so than just like colors. But I mean, I also think color's a thing that a lot of people don't play with a whole lot in films anymore. But that's a different conversation. As for like every shot is painting, whatever, I'm kind of with James where I feel like that defeats the purpose of it being a moving picture. Like you can make the argument of like, well, if it looks good still, it'll look good fast, but like that's not true.
Well, I make the argument because there's I guess, you know, non-zero percentage of cinephiles, film fans who, you know, their entire understanding of what makes good cinematography is it's pretty to look at.
Yeah.
It can make a good wallpaper, you know, a
And, like,
desktop
that's-
background. So I am against that idea. I do believe that it's important that a film have intentionality when it comes to how you're blocking shots, let alone where you're placing your lights in the room. You know, that's just cinematography 101. I'm just against it because, you know, I feel like people who pick their favorite movies based off of, you know, how well they like the color grading in it, something like that.
Every
know?
Roger Deakins movie. Apparently the greatest movie of all time.
I mean, not a wrong opinion to have. The man invented color grading for Oh Brother Where Art Thou, you know? You
No,
can't
Roger
do that.
Deakins is very good.
Yeah.
I use it because a lot of people do say Roger Deakins is the best. He is the best.
They just don't know why he's the best, basically.
They think it's because he looks pretty.
Yeah.
And it's, yes, but also.
Well, I mean, it's the same argument that goes with the people who are all like, the graphics, though, on like games. Where it's like, this game's amazing
That
because it's got
pisses me off
graphics.
to no
There is
end.
It's the same concept.
legitimately
They're just
only
like-
one movie I think I've ever seen where I thought this movie is good because it's beautiful.
The
and
Grand
that
Budapest
was
Hotel.
The Master, the Paul Thomas Anderson film.
Oh, the one with the, yeah.
Yeah. That was the only film I think I've ever seen where I was like, the colors in this alone are worth
To
the
be
price
fair,
of
he
admission.
put an IMAX camera in a jail cell
Yeah.
and was like, hey, my guy, you need to hold this on your shoulder.
He was like, if Nolan can do it, you can do it too.
Yeah.
That's besides the point, though. Sorry.
Connor, what's your favorite scene?
I don't know. You guys ask me these questions that are like rumination based, and I have like maybe 10 minutes to ruminate. So
Ruminate.
I meant like, isn't like I need to like digest this film overnight and like think about it.
I mean, mine is still that montage when they set up the housekeeper. I love that scene.
That is a pretty good scene. Yeah, that one's good. James, what were you gonna say? I don't know. I genuinely have to think about it. With a movie this dense and like this,
He hates the film.
I don't hate. Oh, for fuck.
All right. Well, if you don't hate it, give it a score.
Oh, this is a solid like either A+ or S tier for me. I've loved it. This was good.
S++.
Yeah. This is a fantastic film.
Yeah.
I don't need to think about that. That
I'm
one.
glad we got a rebound from Chinatown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chinatown's a great film.
No, it wasn't.
You gave it an A.
The more I think about it, the lower that score gets.
I would give this one an A, in my opinion. This is a solid film.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anything else?
Well, what would you rate it?
S+++++.
Yeah, he-
Oh, I thought you were making a joke about him.
No,
No,
just
I think he was
S. S just
Oh, okay.
yeah, like an A plus S tier.
I mean, you own it. I hope you like it.
Yeah.
No, I mean, you can own stuff you don't like.
No.
Oh, that's right. You do have Blood Meridian.
To be fair, you bought that for him.
This is true. Well,
What do we want to review next? Oh,
I'll have to
Alien
look
Romulus.
Oh, that did just come out.
all right, I guess we're doing Alien Romulus next week.
Another alien.
If I'm not there for that one, you know what happened.
James Cameron and Ridley Scott just need to pay us money for this.
Yeah.
We're just basically carrying their franchise more so than they ever did. I don't know if I
Parasite?
want to see that one.
Oh my god.
It looks no, not because it's scary. I don't know. It
Just
looks
'cause it doesn't look good?
It looks mid.
No. Isn't something else coming out soon?
Oh, Borderlands.
Yeah.
Borderlands is already out.
Is it already out?
Yeah, remember I sent you guys the article that said it made $8 million
Oh, that wasn't the
opening
box. Yeah. I
When
wonder
it
if it's
comes
on
out
any
on video
streaming
on demand.
services yet.
If you haven't seen Parasite, go watch,
watch
it.
it.
If you're my older sister, thank you for recommending that we show
Yeah,
content.
Thank you
seriously.
for being our number one fan. This one was for you.
Yep. Any
If
other
you-
fans want to suggest things for us to watch? Put it in the comments.
Yeah, we might actually watch it now.
Yeah. We have precedent.
Yeah, we have to.
The only thing we ask is it's in the IMDb top 250. don't
We don't
recommend
ask
some
that.
obscure
No. Don't
like,
listen to him.
Danish movie.
Recommend some top tier garbage. I
Go
want
with
some
the
filth.
obscure Danish films.
If we're
Let's
gonna watch top tier
Festen.
garbage, we're gonna watch movies like the Power Rangers movies
I'm totally down for
or
that.
DComs. We need a good palate cleanser. We should just watch like crappy movies for the
We
next.
should just have like a really bad film
Yeah.
episode and just be like, here's the movies we watched as a kid.
We need a palate cleanser,
I want to talk about the Bionicle.
or at
films.
least like a like
You said bad movies.
a Transformers
I know what I
esque
said.
a Transformers esque type blockbuster,
Oh,
Oh,
man.
like GI
Transformers.
Joe.
Can we talk about how film has gone downhill ever since Optimus Prime monologued over Lincoln Park?
Can we talk about how Connor just quotes the TikToks he sends me?
Well, James needs to hear him.
I do not need to hear anything on TikTok.
Alrighty. Well, that was us talking about Parasite.
Yep.
One of the movies of 2019. Oh, before we go, actually, I had to ask you guys this question. This was going to be my number one question I was going to lead with. Maybe you would probably answer this a lot better.
Okay.
Best movie of the 2010s? Or where would you put it?
I would rank it at least within the top 5 if we're going based off of popularity.
Yeah.
And if we're talking the entirety of the 2010s,
Yeah.
I would need a list in front of me.
2011 to 2019. Or
But
2020, however that works.
yeah, I would probably need like a list in front of me of everything else that came out in the 2010s.
Well, I'm
But
glad
to
you
me-
asked.
Hold up.
Bro, I got a game to get to.
I mean, let's just run through them backwards. The 3 movies that we talked about in 2019. And then we had stuff like Wolf of Wall Street. We had a couple of Tarantino movies like Inglourious Bastards and Django.
I think The Master by Paul Thomas
We
Anderson
had
came
a
out.
couple Paul Thomas Anderson movies like The Master. There is a little known space movie called Interstellar that also released that year. There's Fincher movies like Gone Girl and Social Network.
Okay.
And then there's one also released, I think, in 2018 called Get Out. That was, I think, a big hit. I don't know. I don't recall.
Without putting too much thought in it, I would probably give Parasite at least within the top 10. And at that point, I would probably be putting it there based on just popularity
Yeah.
polling, because I can if I had the time, I could think of 10 other movies I just personally enjoyed.
Yeah.
I mean, Social Network, you name that's number
Yeah.
one or two.
No,
you
that's
know?
that's number one.
Yeah. And then Moneyball would be like number 2 or 3, you
Yeah.
know, like easily.
Easy.
But, you know, I would need the time to create a
Would
list.
you call it a decade-defining movie?
I feel like it probably defines the 2020s. I feel like it was kind of prescient going into the pandemic, how it talked about class issues that would end up becoming part of our zeitgeist conversation here in America. So that's at least just my opinion, you know. You need a film like Parasite to even raise the issues for people to begin talking about it.
Yeah.
I feel like that's defined the 2020s more so than that did the 2010s.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, I thought it was funny when she gave him his salary and we're like, I'm gonna give you the old guy's salary plus inflation. And I was like, that's a good boss.
Yeah. Could not relate.
I was like, damn, that is a touchy subject nowadays.
Yep.
Connor, do you have any thoughts about this being a decade-defining movie?
Isaac, you listed how many movies did he say? Probably like almost 10 by yourself. Only one of those I had seen, and that was Interstellar. So we're just gonna skip past me.
Interstellar 1, Parasite 2.
No,
Greatest end of the
no.
year list of all time.
Parasite 1, Interstellar, number 10.
God damn it.
Do I know what's in between it? No, I don't.
That's for next week. I think it's an interesting topic to bring up, though.
Oh, it is, but I'm with James. I'd have to have a list.
You
I don't know
don't
these
have
things
to have. I don't have a list. I'm just saying. I think it's out of all the movies that came out in 2010s.
Do you think it's
one of the
a
ones that people talk
decade-defining
about.
movie?
Yeah, I think
For
it's
the
one of the
2010s?
ones that people will talk about the most when we look back at that decade of film. And it's weird because right around 2014, 2015, when the MCU was in full effect, it feels like there's just a massive schism where all the popular movies were the movies of the year before that, and then after that, it's kind of like the best movies are not as maybe well known. So 2010s are going to be a weird year to look back on.
Maybe next podcast.
One of the worst years in movie history. No, that's still the 90s. All right. Anyways, we're out of here. Bye.
Yep. 안녕.